Hello, my darlings. Today we are making my mom's cheese soup. It's highly requested whenever there's a potluck. In fact, she kind of gets in trouble if she doesn't bring it to a potluck, so here we go. First, you're going to need 3 cubes of butter. I use unsalted butter because I like to control my butter content, but you can use salted if you want. Recipe says half an onion. I use the full one. 2 stalks of celery, washed. Some chicken soup base, or you can use 8 bouillon cubes. It doesn't have to be chicken, you can also do vegetable, but I wouldn't recommend beef. 1 1/2 cup flour, salt and pepper, 1 pound of Velveeta, 12 cups of water, minced garlic. Again, I'm using pre-minced just because mincing and doing everything is a bit hard. And here I am using 2 heads of broccoli. You can actually use any frozen vegetable you like. My mom uses frozen California blend vegetables. Here I am cutting off the white part of the celery. It's just not as tasty and a little bit more fibrous, so it's good to get rid of that. And I'm going to use my mandolin to slice this as thin as possible, but you can also use a food processor. This one's just a mini one that attaches to my immersion blender, but if you have a regular size one with an insert that either shreds or does the slicing option, you can use that as well. I'm donning my Kevlar glove. It's cut proof and makes it so I can safely cut the broccoli. And then I'm going to cut this at a number 1, which is the thinnest setting that there is on my mandolin. The broccoli is going to kind of... Oh my gosh, this isn't broccoli, it's celery! Wow, good morning, Chelsea. So the celery is going to get kind of everywhere. I just didn't put a bowl underneath. I would recommend you do put a bowl underneath. Don't pull a me. Get a bowl. Alright, so we're getting that all sliced up, and then we're going to move to the onion. We want to slice the blossom end of the onion. That's the one I pointed to. The other end, the kind of hairy end, is called the root. So we're cutting off that top to give us a flat surface to chop that onion in half from root to the top, of course. We're going to peel off that papery layer. And then slice against the grain, I believe it would be. Just horizontally along from you to the onion. So you're going to just make it as thin or as thick as you want. I went back here and sliced a little thinner on the end and then cut it vertically. This will give you a nice chop. There are a bunch of instruction videos and tutorials on how to do this if my explanation doesn't make sense, which, fair. It doesn't make sense to me either sometimes. Who knows what goes on in my head? With the second half of the onion, I'm actually going to demonstrate the food processor, the little one. I'm just going to peel that all off, cut off the root end of the onion, and I'm going to take a little bit extra off that root end. A lot of the crying chemicals are in that end, so you want to cut those off rather than chop them up. I cut the half in half, so technically into a quarter, and just am dropping it into the food processor bowl. And then I'm just going to attach the top part, which is my immersion blender. Tomo! Shh! And pulse it a few times until it's chopped fine. Sorry, my dog has decided it's time to visit mom. Hi, baby. So we're just gonna blend that up a couple times, just pulse it, and it won't take long to get that chopped up fine, as you can see. I do, however, recommend... Oh my gosh, my dog. I do, however, recommend keeping the lid on it until you use it because that is very pungent onion smell. Okay, so now we're going to start the actual cooking part. I'm using a 6-quart Dutch oven here. You don't have to have a Dutch oven, but any kind of soup pot will do nicely. Just make sure it's at least 6 quarts because this soup makes close to that amount. It makes a lot of soup. Oh, Tomo's being so loud right now. He's being a butt. And then, so we're going to start the butter melting. And once it's melted a little bit, we're going to add in those aromatic vegetables, the celery, the onion, the cry factor, aka the food processor onions. I'm just joking. They didn't actually make me cry, but they're a lot more smelly, so go away. Hello. Yes, you're cute. I love you. Go away. I'm going to mix it in a little bit here. And then I'm going to add in the garlic. I'm going to do about 4 cloves worth of garlic. This particular brand, it says it's about 1 tablespoon per clove, so I'm doing about 4 tablespoons worth in here. And then just going to mix that in. Get it good and make sure everything's incorporated well. And this is when I'm going to salt and pepper. This salt will help increase flavor, but it also will help draw out moisture from those vegetables, which will get them softer quicker. And then we're going to add the lovely blue-hued pepper. It's gonna make me giggle for a little while, so forgive me, but that blue light I don't understand, but hey, it's pretty. Mix that all in, and then we're just gonna let this cook down. Here you see it's getting kind of bubbly. The vegetables are softened and everything, so this is when we're gonna add our flour. We're gonna do it in installments of 3. So that'd be about half a cup per installment. You see me adding it in there and then just eyeballing it and then mixing it all together until there's no more white flour left. And now he's laying on the beanbag, the loudest place he could lay down. So doing the installments in 3s, as I said, and then mixing between each one until the flour is fully incorporated. Once you've got all 3, you want to cook it for a little bit and keep stirring it fairly regularly. This is cooking out the flour. You will notice a change in lighting and then change in amount. I'll explain later. Here we're going to start adding the water in a little bit at a time. You want to do this because you're going to mix all of that paste essentially that you made with the flour into the water, and if you dump all the water in, it will make it harder to mix it all evenly. So then you see how I have a bit more of a looser paste now, and then I added the rest of the water, mixed it all together quite well using a whisk, and now I'm going to add the bouillon or the soup base, whichever you're using. I'm using, as I said, you can use 8 bouillon cubes, or in this case, I'm using the base. I like better than bouillon, but you can use whichever one's your favorite. You don't have to use a specific brand. Mixing that all in well and using the whisk just to make sure it's incorporated. We're gonna mix a bit. And my dog's back in my lap. And then we're gonna cut the broccoli. You can use fresh or frozen, and you can get pre-cut vegetables. That's absolutely alright, and there's nothing wrong with it. I just like the taste of fresh broccoli. So I'm just turning the head upside down and then slicing off the little mini heads. Hi, puppy. How's your puppy? Oh, thank you for kisses. And then each of those mini heads I'm going to cut into bite-sized pieces. So my mom has always used the California blend. It has not California in it. Has cauliflower, broccoli, and carrots. I just don't like the texture of the carrots in it, so I don't tend to use that. I'll tend to use the fresh version instead of the frozen. So giving that a little mix again, and then checking the temperature. We don't want this soup to boil, but we want it to be just on the cusp of not boiling. So here we're gonna cut our Velveeta. I had a little trouble opening the box. I think it was just a brain dead moment, but I am using a separate cutting board and also cutting on the foil that the Velveeta came in because it's really sticky. So I'm going to cut the block into fourths and then pile them too high and then cut each of those fourths into a half before slicing it into cubes. And I'm just putting it directly into the soup so that it's not as messy. The reason why we're cutting into cubes is so that we can get it to melt more evenly and it doesn't take as long to do. Mix that in. Check on your temperature, of course, and then once everything's mixed fairly well, it's not going to melt immediately, it's going to take a little time. Just throw a lid on there and then set it aside for about, I would say about 10 minutes, stirring occasionally until that Velveeta is fully melted and everything is incorporated. Here I'm fighting my cat for my chair. This is San. I'm sure anyone who lives with cats fully knows that challenge of you stand up for 2 minutes and your cat is where you were because it's warm. So I'm adding in the broccoli now, and I kind of dumped it, which was pretty silly of me. I ended up getting broccoli everywhere. You could totally just take handfuls of it and put it in the soup. Tomo, I'm talking. I know. So, but it's entirely up to you. If you want to have an avalanche of broccoli, hey, more the merrier. It's fun, kind of. Not really cleaning up everything. I'm sorry, guys. I'm a little under the weather and have taken some cold medicines and whatnot to help. So I'm a bit loopy, if you will. Cover that up and then turn it down a little bit and leave it for about 5 minutes. You don't want to fully cook the broccoli because we don't want mushy broccoli, but you do want it to soften slightly. I'm going to do one last stir here, and then I realized that I forgot to taste for seasoning. I've made this enough that generally I don't need to, but I'm going to just as a demonstration to show that, yeah, you know, always taste your food. Go ahead and like I'm showing, taste it, see if it needs anything, but it didn't need any extra seasoning. Dish yourself up a bowl and enjoy. This is wonderful with a crusty bread or breadsticks, or if you go to the store and get a soup bowl, delightful. You just cut a hole in that soup bowl and fill it with this stuff. It's so good and really and truly one of my favorite soups that my mom always made. I do want to say thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Share this with your friends. Share it with everyone and let them know what we're doing here. The story behind why I had to redo the soup is my camera stopped videoing. And so then suddenly I had 6 quarts of soup and a whole nother shoot to do. So I dumped that off on my dear friend Wendy and made myself a half batch, which I'll include the recipe for the full and the half batch in the comments below. Thank you so much and love you.